Welcome, Mr. Hough. Welcome to Brussels at the television studio of the Committee of the Regions at the occasion of the Open Days. You were invited here to attend a workshop on how to boost the European aquaculture. Now, what is the sector missing today that we need to boost it?
Basically, we have a very complex European aquaculture sector, which provides freshwater fish, shellfish, mollusks, and marine fish for the European seafood market. Now, the European seafood market covers approximately 14 million tons of product. That's all types of fish and seafood, of which we import approximately 8 million tons. Of the rest of the remainder part, if you like, that is provided by fisheries and by aquaculture. And therefore, what we realize is that we're increasingly dependent on imports at a time when food security is becoming quite an important issue in the European Union.
And how exactly do you intend to reduce this dependency?
Well, this is part of the problem because European aquaculture is really, I would have said, stagnated in the European Union while neighboring countries have grown. So, for example, in terms of fish farming, we've basically been extremely stable for the last 10 years, whereas in Norway and Turkey it's grown at 6-7% a year. Overall, in the Far East, for example, another center of aquaculture production, growth has been well over 7 or 8% a year, while we've not followed. And there are many different reasons as to why we think that has happened. Certainly, it's a combination of legislation and really, I would have said, inaction at local level. In a recent communication by the European Commission on the strategic guidelines for the sustainable development of European aquaculture, one of the first highlights is the administrative red tape to get a license to operate. So this was one of the key points that we were discussing earlier today, particularly as the Committee of the Regions, is where you're more at a local level. This is where, in fact, the licenses are given. It's not given at a European level. So that's part of the issue.
How difficult is it to work together on different levels and to have everybody on the same page?
I would have said there's a lot of misconceptions. You know, if you talk about how does Brussels work, or it's Brussels' fault, which is something that you hear an awful lot. You say, yes, but which part of Brussels? Is it the Commission? Is it the Parliament? Is it the Committee of the Regions? Is it the Economic and Social Committee? People don't know. It's just one blanket position. And I think, if you like, as the Lisbon Treaty is coming into operation, so where you have more people participating in the decision-making procedure, it's actually becoming more complex.
Of course, yeah.
So part of the problem is also when you're working, trying to communicate back to local level, is actually where do the responsibilities lie? Who has the responsibility for what? And clarification on that. If one understands that, it's much easier to have actions that can make sense and come in the end with a difference. And I was saying that is the key position for Federation, is that we want actions that increase competitiveness, that allow us to stay in business, rather than being in a talking shop saying, what should we do to be boosting European aquaculture?
And how can the reform of the common fishery policy be part of that?
Well, this is a very important aspect, because when the common fisheries policy was first put forward, it really was just for fisheries. Now, when aquaculture started to develop in the 70s and 80s, when it became sort of more important, aquaculture found itself inside the common fisheries policy rather than the common agricultural policy. Now, the reason for that is very simple. It's actually because our products are in the same market envelope as for fisheries. So finally, after, I would have said, 12 years, aquaculture has been recognized before in the common fisheries policy. For example, it was able to benefit from certain actions in the common organization of the markets and the European Fisheries Fund. But this time round, we actually have a separate chapter. Aquaculture is seen as a pillar of the common fisheries policy, and this is really a slight change in approach from the point of view of what should the common fisheries policy be doing. Yes, one part of the major part of the common fisheries policy is the sustainable management of fisheries stocks. But we also believe that it should be the sustainable supply of high quality seafood to the European consumer. And that's where aquaculture finds its position.
Yeah.
So aquaculture is seen as a strong pillar inside the common fisheries policy, obviously as a support in some measure to fisheries actions, but because also we deal with freshwater production and a lot of coastal activity as well, we certainly see that we need to be closely involved with other legislative parts as well. But the common fisheries policy is without doubt our main guideline.
And are the negotiations going the right directions for you?
Well, we are very happy with I should say that we've had more than one issue concerning aquaculture, because we had a publication last year which was more on where should aquaculture be going. This was a communication of the Commission. Then we had in April of this year the strategic guidelines for the sustainable development of European aquaculture. But if you take the combination of those two documents, you combine it with the position on the common fisheries policy, and now really the move towards the trilogue discussions on the Fisheries Fund, which is the financial instrument for support of the implementation of common fisheries policy, and the common organisation of the markets. Yes, that's very definitely a solid move forward. One of the things that we are particularly interested and hope will be extremely successful is going to be the Aquaculture Advisory Council, which is like a sort of mirror to the regional fisheries advisory councils, but this will cover the whole of Europe and act as a focal point for governance in terms of the development of the aquaculture sector in the European Union.
So it looks hopeful for you.
Hopeful and interesting period.
Okay, let's keep it to that. Thank you very much for coming to the studio.
My pleasure.